Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Chronically Me podcast. I'm your host, Aimee Esther, and in today's episode, we are talking about the fear of missing out. If you live chronically ill like me and are looking for more purpose, control, and joy in your life, then you are in the right place. This is the podcast that challenges your thinking around chronic illness so you can live the most amazing life despite extra challenges. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. I want to talk about, as they say, FOMO, which that word makes me cringe. The fear of missing out, okay? And when you live chronically ill, you probably miss out on a lot of things if you're like me and you have to cancel and plans change and you just get sick randomly. You never know how you're going to feel, and so you cancel a lot. That is how we live here with chronic illness. And it can be so hard because you want to do the things, you want to be able to go to the party or the event or whatever it is, but you just can't because your body is not allowing it that day. So we're going to talk about that today. I'd like to take a minute to talk about today's sponsor, HealthTap. HealthTap is a telemedicine company where you can talk to doctors 24/7 with their urgent care or by appointment with the doctor of your choice. I think HealthTap is the perfect solution to someone who lives chronically ill because it's virtual. You can do it from your home. You can talk to your doctors from your home where you are safe and you don't have to use your energy and your precious time to get up and go to multiple doctor's appointments. As we all know, we have. You can connect with the doctor in minutes or schedule an appointment with the doctor of your choice. You can get personalized care by video chat or text your doctor anytime to get refills, clarify health goals, and ask questions. With the doctor I worked with on HealthTap, we talked about some of my gut health, and she said that I could text her some of the foods that I was more sensitive to so she could go over that before our next appointment. And it's so easy to send a little text message to your doctor with follow-up questions. You can get a diagnosis, prescription, lab tests, referrals, and a treatment plan, all from the comfort of your own home. Get the care that's right for you, whether it's women's health, children's health, sexual health, men's health, chronic care, or wellness prevention and lifestyle. HealthTap accepts hundreds of insurance plans to use for both urgent care and primary care visits. Enjoy savings and benefits with subscription. HealthTap offers an inexpensive, convenient, and simple way to manage chronic illness and live your best life. If you subscribe and use the code AEPC, you get your first visit for free. Use my link in the description of the YouTube video version of this podcast or in the show notes on your favorite podcast app. Now let's get back to the episode. I read something once that said that there's been research that people are twice as affected by losses than they are by gains. And this makes so much sense to me. I think about this podcast, right? I get so many good, positive feedback of people loving it and saying the things that it's helping them with. And then I get one comment of someone saying that they didn't like that episode or they didn't like the podcast at all. And they aren't following me anymore. And they unfollowed me because they didn't like the podcast. And that's the ones I remember and I think about because the losses, they hurt more than the gains. And it's so annoying that we do this, right? I can gain 5 new subscribers on YouTube and I lose 1 and I'm thinking about the one that I lost, which is dumb because I have 5 other ones who are here and showing up. And it's so annoying to me and I always get mad at my brain for doing this. Like, why are the losses so much stronger in my brain than the gains? Why are the things we're missing out on so much stronger than the things that we go to? It's like all we're thinking about is all the stuff we missed out on instead of all the stuff we were able to do, right? We get something, we go somewhere, we're able to do something one time, and we forget about it so fast. Yet we can't stop thinking about the times where we weren't able to and we had the loss. Now, I read this on behavioraleconomics.com, and it says, loss aversion is associated with prospect theory and is encapsulated in the expression, losses loom larger than gains. It is thought that the pain of losing is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. Isn't that insane? Twice as powerful as gaining. Like, if you are a soccer player and you lose, you feel twice as much emotion as if you were to win. Isn't that crazy? And it makes sense. Like, think about everything that you've done in your life. How true is this? Now, if we continue on with behavioraleconomics.com, it then says people are more willing to take risks or behave dishonestly to avoid loss than to make a gain. Loss aversion can be used to explain endowment effect, sunk cost fallacy, and also play a role in status quo bias. Now, if you don't know what those three things are, let me tell you. So, endowment effect is a bias that occurs when we overvalue something that we own, regardless of its market value. So, you own a house, you just assume it's worth more than the market value of it because it's yours. And again, that comes from feeling more pain from losing something than from gaining something, right? We're thinking more about, well, I think my house should be worth $600,000, not $550,000. And so we're thinking about that $50,000 loss instead of that $550,000 gain, even though it's way more. Kind of crazy. So the other thing it talked about was sunk cost fallacy, which is when you continue a behavior or endeavor as a result of a previously invested resource, such as time, money, or effort. So, for example, if you were to go out to eat and you order this big meal, even though, this is what I do all the time, it gives me this huge stomach ache to eat the whole thing, I eat it because I want to say, well, I don't want to waste my money. I want to get my money's worth for what I just bought. So I'm just going to eat the whole thing, even though it makes me sick. Even though I'd feel better mentally and physically after this meal, if I were to eat half of it, I'm going to eat all of it so I don't waste the money. Or you bought tickets to something and you feel terrible, but you're going to stay the whole time and feel miserable the whole time because you don't want to waste the money on this. I found myself doing this and I started being like, Aimee, this makes no sense. And so I will just leave movie theaters. I'll get tickets to a movie, then realize I'm getting a migraine halfway through the movie and be like, you know what? Why would I waste my money staying longer and being miserable? Or I could spend the same amount of money and leave, right? Like, it doesn't make sense that our brains do this. We're like, we don't want to waste the money, even though we're going to feel miserable by doing the thing. So that's sunk cost fallacy. And then the last thing it talked about was status quo bias, which is evident when people prefer things to stay the same by doing nothing or sticking to a decision previously made. And I think we've all done this, right? We're like, oh, it would just be better if we just stay where we're at than try to do something new. I think about this with my YouTube channel. I'm like, I should just keep doing it the way I'm doing it instead of try to do something new because it's more comfortable. I know what I'm doing, or I'm just not going to do anything because that's easier than maybe failing, right? And it's that loss. We are so scared of the loss and we don't think about the gain, right? And it makes it hard to take risks on things, right? Like maybe you want to start a business, but you're like, I don't want to risk losing money or time or just feel bad about myself for not completing the task. I just don't want to go through that. And so I'm just going to not do anything. I'm just going to not start the business instead of risk starting it and failing. And we do this so often. We are so scared of losing something that we're not willing to risk gaining something. Like it said, people are affected twice as much from the losses as they do the gains. So instead of risking losing something and feeling terrible, instead of risking missing out, we're going to go and feel miserable the whole time and feel sick the whole time because we don't want to miss out on the thing, even though that doesn't really make any sense. And especially if we spent money on something, right? We've bought a ticket to something. It's hard not to feel like, okay, well, I'm going to miss out on that thing if I don't go and I already spent the money on it. Or even if it wasn't any money, I already told this person I would go. I would rather be miserable the whole time and be sick the whole time than stay home and have to worry about what I'm missing out on, right? Or we stay home and we just think about what we're missing out on and not focus on what we're actually doing and what we have done, because we're not focused on the gains, we're focused on the losses. So I want you to think about in your life right now, How much have you done this? Have you done this in your life? I know I have, where I just am so afraid of the loss that I don't notice the gains. And I think especially with social media, it's so hard not to feel like you're missing out on something. We had my 10-year high school reunion this year. And I thought, okay, it's 10 years. I should totally go to that. And I was kind of planning on it. And then it just didn't work out because I was not feeling good. And I was not up for it. And then I get on Instagram and I see people who went. And before I thought, oh, no one's going to go. It'll be fine, Aimee. You won't miss out on anything. Then I get on social media and I see people who went. And I'm like, oh, it would have been nice to see that person. I've only seen them on social media the past few years. Or, oh, I wonder if I would have seen this person there. Or it looks like they had so much fun. I missed out so much. Instead of realizing that I would have been miserable the whole time. And I gained a lot by staying home. I gained a lot by not going to the thing. But all I can focus on is what I lost out on. Even though I had a great night, just me and my husband. And also I didn't really like talking to people anyway. And I'm kind of awkward in social situations. And I probably would not have had that much fun. Right? Like when I think about it, it's like that probably would not have been that much fun. I hated high school. Why would I want to go back there? And yet I feel this like deep loss that I missed out on this thing. Even though when I actually logically think about it, it's like, I probably would not have had that much fun. They probably didn't have that much fun. I had a lot of fun here with my husband, but I can't even see that because I'm blinded by this loss that I had. So I think one way that we can kind of combat that is don't go on social media if you're struggling with something, right? Like if there's something you are struggling with that you might see someone else doing on social media, let's avoid that for at least a little while. Let's not go on there and watch what people are doing. But then let's also notice the gains because they're going to be smaller in our minds. Like I said with my YouTube comments, I might get 10 positive, amazing comments and then one rude comment of someone who didn't like it or had something rude to say. And all I can think about is the rude one. And realizing that that is 1 out of 10, Aimee. 10% of the comments that I had gotten that day were negative. And usually it's way less than that. It's like 1 out of 50, 1 out of 100, right? But still, it doesn't even matter if it's 1 out of 100. I still cannot stop focusing on the one. So I think a huge thing we need to do is look at the gains, look at the positives, because there always are positives. Even if you're missing out on something, even if you didn't get to go to the thing, look at the positives. Look at, hey, I would have been miserable there. Hey, I would have had to take this loss financially to go there. There are gains by not going to the thing. Always. There always will be. I've talked about this before, but I believe that life is 50-50. Everything that we do has 50% good, happy, exciting things and 50% bad, annoying, frustrating things. And we focus on the frustrating so much more than we do on the positive when we're in the moment. But then when we're missing out on the thing, we're so focused on the positive that we're not looking at the negative. Yet, I promise if I'd gone to my 10-year reunion, there would have been a lot of negative. It would have been a long drive. It would have been messing up my kids' sleep schedule. I would have had to get a babysitter, or I would have had to take my kids there, and that would have been a nightmare because they're a lot, okay? We're just going to say that. They're a lot. I love them, but they're a lot. Or I would have been miserable and awkward and not even wanted to be there because I really did not like high school. So why I thought I wanted to be there, I do not know. And I'm not focusing on the good that I had a wonderful night with my husband and I got to stay home and I was comfortable and I was in a place that I love with someone that I love instead of people that I don't even want to be with, right? So why do we do that? Why do we only focus on the negative, the losses, and not the gains? So truly the best way to stop fear of missing out, FOMO as they say, is to focus on living in the moment. Focus on the right now. Focus on where you're at now and being honest with yourself of where you're at. Because I find that when we think about the future or the past or somewhere that we're not or someone else's present time that we exaggerate our emotions, whether it's good or bad. Like if we're fearful of something in the future, we exaggerate that fear and that overwhelm and that stress. And then when we're in that moment, it's usually less overwhelming and fearful and stressful than what we think it will be right now today. Or we exaggerate the good, like, oh, we're going on this trip and I'm so excited for it. It's going to be amazing. And we exaggerate this, just going to be the best thing ever. And then when we get there, we realize, wait a second, there's still crappy things going on here. Like Disneyland, that I thought was the happiest place on earth, is exhausting and there's a lot of people and it's expensive and my kids are missing sleep and they're grumpy. And guess what? It's not going to be all sunshine and roses. And when we look at someone else's life or something we're missing out on here in the present, somewhere where we are not actually there, we exaggerate those feelings. We're feeling way more excited. We're having way more fun in our minds than we actually would be if we went to that thing. So notice how our brains exaggerate our emotions when we're not in that specific time, whether we're looking at the future or the past or somewhere that we're not, somewhere that we're missing out on, but not in our present exact moment. Anything outside of that, we exaggerate. We think it will be better than it is. Or, like I said, sometimes worse than it is if it's something fearful and scary. But a lot of times in these moments where we're missing out on something, we are just exaggerating that excitement, that fun, all the good feelings we've had, not realizing that there would also be a bunch of bad feelings there as well, because we're not in that moment. But when we're sitting in the present and we realize where we are at, guess what? There's amazing gains right here where we are today. And there's awful losses right here where we are today. There's both. But the losses are a lot stronger in our mind. The gains, they take a back seat, even though they're the good things. Isn't that funny that our brains do this? It's like, let's focus on the things that we lost out on instead of what was good and amazing and wonderful today. No, let's focus on the good. Let's focus on just where we're at. Let's focus on the present moment. Let's be mindful of where we are right now. And even though we think we would be happier if we were at the thing we're missing out on, like, would we actually? Or would we still have a human brain that's still searching for problems and still trying to feel all the emotions and have good things and bad things, and it's going to find problems. I promise. No matter where we are, it's going to look at the losses and gains, right? If you go to the thing, if I went to my 10-year reunion, I'd be thinking about all the things I was losing out on, not the things that I was gaining there. I'd be like, oh man, I really wanted to watch Stranger Things with my husband tonight. Dang it. Or, oh man, I now have just spent all this time driving. Or now I feel so much worse physically. I lost all this time I could have had to rest because I wanted to go to this 10-year reunion. Our brains would still do the same thing, even if we went to the thing that we thought we were missing out on. I promise you, it happens. Like, think about a time where you didn't want to miss out on something and you went anyways, and then your brain still found problems with where you were at. Even if there were still good things, there were still problems. And again, when we look at the past or future or somewhere we're not right now, our brains might exaggerate that good, and we forget that on our vacation there were some terrible things that happened, when in reality, like, it was 50-50. But think about it. In reality, what was it like? I know that our brains want to think that we're losing out right now and that person's gaining something, but guess what? They've lost something and gained something too. We've all had both. And our brains just focus on the bad and not the good. They focus on the losses, not the gains. It puts so much more weight on those losses. They feel heavier. They feel harder than the joy we get from the gains. So let's remember, my friends, to live in the moment as much as we can. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey friend, do you find value in this podcast but want to take it to the next level? Work with me one-on-one or check out Chronically Me, the course and workbook. This course takes the things you are learning on the podcast and helps you apply them directly to your life. This course dives deeper into changing your thinking, teaching you how the brain works and how to maximize your life with chronic illness. I designed this course as a companion to the podcast. The podcast gives specific, real-world examples, and the course helps you put them into action. If you want personalized one-on-one help from me, I got you. I also offer individual coaching programs where we can talk about the problems you are facing. I'll help you manage your brain and find solutions to nearly every problem that you have. We will walk hand in hand on this journey together. Check the show notes or the video description on YouTube for more information on getting extra help from me. Talk to you soon.